Across valleys rolling, across waters frozen, across the time between my dawn and the setting sun. These are stories blowing, these words tender showing. How can I touch the shape of wing bandings falling away? Tongue set free, oh mind let it be. Oh land, teach me how to lay in the storming wind. Across hearts aching, across skies breaking, across the time between our suns. I'm lost in the stars, by the light of the dark moon. Just be as you are, just do as you do. By grace and devotion, by letting go of everything.
Hi everyone, I wanted to show you that little snippet of the Moon Lodge. So we have Summer Solstice coming up and it's going to be a beautiful evening. We're going to be celebrating on the 14th of December just to avoid the Christmas rush, even though the actual Summer Solstice is on December the 22nd for the Southern Hemisphere. So I've done a few videos in the last past celebrations for the women's wheel. I didn't get around to doing one for Beltane, so you didn't hear about that, but you did hear a video from Imbolc and Spring Equinox, and I wanted to make one just to describe a little bit about Summer Solstice for you. So here's my little map that you often get back to front. So here we have the 8 Sabbaths of the women's wheel, and the first video we made was for Imbolc, which was this time here, which was all about planting seeds. Here we have winter solstice at the bottom, which is the middle of winter, the 22nd of June, and up here we have summer solstice, which is the 22nd of December. Then we have spring equinox here, autumn equinox here, and this is in September, this is in March, and each of these celebrations mark different times in the seasonal growing cycle and the cycle for us as well as women, because there are different maps that can be placed on top of this wheel. So Imbolc was where we planted seeds of intent about what we want to actually see harvest over here in autumn before we come back down into winter solstice. Spring equinox marks the time of the maiden, when we're in that first ripeness of fertility and the first menstrual cycle. And then up at Beltane we had in November, and that is all about peak fertility, couples, sexuality. We had a fire outside, we did drumming and dancing, we explored a lot of deep, beautiful conversation with women about our sexuality and how we express that in our lives. And now we're moving up to the peak point, which is summer solstice, which is up here. And this is the rising, so when you're talking about the longest days and the shortest days, this is the shortest day of the year down here. And as we progress up further up the wheel, we get to the longest day of the year up here and the shortest night. This is where we have daylight savings, that shift in energy, where we have those beautiful long evenings. And this time of the year between Beltane and Lammas, where we have the summer solstice, it's the busiest time of the year for everyone. And it's not just us because we have Christmas and New Year and school holidays and all of these things finishing. It's actually everywhere around us as well. So all the animals are very busy. If you look in the air, there are a lot more insects and bird life, a lot more noises. If you go out, the animals have all had their babies. So this is a really full time. And in our cycle as women, this also represents between the ages of 25 and 50, and that is that time of full motherhood. And it's either mothering babies, like having your own, reproducing and having babies, or it's that time when we actually really move in our career and we have a peak in our career. So we become up, we work our way up the ladder, we have a lot of creativity, we have a lot of passion, and we move into this time to be able to really, move into our power a little bit as women. And if you don't have a career or if you don't have children, often you might be really creative. So this is a hugely creative time. And then we actually come back down here into autumn equinox, which is that shedding and that letting go before we move back down into winter. So we're going to be celebrating Summer Solstice here on the 14th of December in the Moon Lodge, and we're going to be honouring what we are mothering in our lives, and also our own mothers, so in their full darkness and their full light as well. So no one's perfect, and our mothers gift us different things in many different ways. So we'll be honouring that. We'll be honouring the longest day of the year on the 22nd of December, and then we will be participating in a beautiful sound harmonic bath in here in the Moon Lodge, and singing and really raising our vibrations and clearing our energy fields before we move into the Christmas and the New Year period, which often Advent, which has just begun now in December, is often seen as a time of slowing down and going within, and that really comes from the Northern Hemisphere, and that's because their Advent is actually down here in the winter solstice. So this time of the year is really about slowing down, going within, not taking on so many commitments. It represents the menstrual cycle. If we're going to put the whole menstrual cycle onto this wheel, this would be the time that you would be bleeding, when you'll be slower. So it would make sense that Advent, which is for the Northern Hemisphere is in the winter solstice, is actually that time of really calming down. And also the New Year, like we all have these Happy New Year resolutions, which we start on the 1st of January because that's the start of the new year. For us, it's actually not the start of the new year. It's actually that time when we're actually coming back down and starting to get slower and slower and slower back down into winter solstice. And winter solstice actually marks the beginning of the year. So that's when the light actually starts to increase again. So for the Northern Hemisphere, it's perfect. They've got Christmas and they've got New Year all around this time here, which is the beginning, or it's the end of the cycle and the beginning of the new cycle. Whereas we've got this peak energy. So we've got, not only do we have the long days, the general hive of activity that we can feel, like everything's really lifting up and there's lots of busyness, there's lots of things going on in our diaries and calendars. School's about to be finishing, people are madly trying to buy Christmas presents. When you've got all of that on top of the energy of what's around us in this peak time, this is like an intensified period. Whereas if you have it down here in the Northern Hemisphere, you've actually got that slowing down and that calmness that's happening at the same time. So you've got a little bit more balance in the wheel. Whereas in the Southern Hemisphere, we don't have that big event down here. So our winter can actually be very dormant and very still if we choose to make it. But it does mean that our summertime is exceptionally high and really high energy. So the sound vibration, the toning and the sound bath that we'll be having is just going to bring us into a really beautiful space so that we can go back out into our families and celebrate that time with them. So I hope you can join us. Check out the link. There are a few tickets left, and I would very much love to see you. And if you don't make it, then maybe you'll come to Lammas or Autumn Equinox or Samhain, which is Halloween, which we celebrate in May, not in November. So, yeah, from my heart to yours, I wish you lots of love. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year. I'll be back with some new offerings next year. I'm having a slow period at the moment and really diving deep in my own journey and exploring parts of myself. And I'll be coming back in the new year with some beautiful new offerings for you all. So, all my love. Bye.